All right, this is Tag Prakash, and we're here for Looking Up for the week of December 4th. Interesting times. We're working our way into the Mercury retrograde cycle, so there's some building technological difficulties. We're hoping the mic works, basically. So let's just run into it. So there's a couple of things going on this week. So themes we got going on. First, obviously, we're working with the Sun in Sagittarius. We have the Sagittarius season continuing on until the winter solstice on the 21st. The Sun, the consciousness, our conscious awareness, the thing that brings us life and energy and interest in general, moving through Sagittarius. We're exploring, we're experiencing, we're excited about things and trying to do and learn and get more out of something instead of just skimming the surface. We want to get more out of our experiences and our day-to-day. So we have the Sun in Sagittarius, and it's this whole week, the next 8 days about, we have the Sun in a specific angle, in a harmonious angle with Chiron in Aries. So we have two fire signs, Sagittarius and Aries, Sun in trine geometry with Chiron. And that brings about our wounded spaces to a certain extent. Now, it's loosely defined because it's the fire signs. It's a little less about the wounded spaces and a little more about our response to those wounded spaces. So we have the potential for, we'll say, outburst, maybe a little extra heat behind our reactions to things, and that'll be good when we bring conscious awareness to the responses and reactions we have to things that we perceive as harmful. We get to understand what we perceive as harmful. We have a better understanding of what hurts us, what hurts us, whatever. And most things don't actually hurt. They just, never mind. Anyway, so we have the Sun in Sagittarius. We have that geometry happening for this whole week. So we have a theme of healing. That's where a lot of the energy is for this week. Healing and matters of the heart, we'll say. The other theme we have, the other big thing we have today, the planet Venus, love and affection and partnership and collaboration, moved into the sign of Scorpio. Now, while we have Venus in Scorpio, we get to amplify, intensify, and really dive into the feelings that we have. So combine that with the Sun Sagittarius situation, we get a more intensified flavor of whatever that response, reaction, wounded space is. And we get to dig into it a little more. We get to dive into it with a little more fervor, a little more ambition, a little more gumption, and hopefully we get more out of it. We respond in a different way after we've done that work. So we can do some work on that. Venus in Scorpio is like, to me, the first thing that came up when I started thinking about this earlier today was the questions of, do you want it bad enough that you would let it destroy you to get it? And is it worth it? So those two questions. It's like, and obviously there are things that we want bad enough that we would let them destroy us. And we have extreme examples, like people get heavily into drugs or things like that, but we want certain things badly enough that we would actually sacrifice our being, our well-being, our soul, our heart, or some aspect of our life to get those things. And then the next question is it worth the destruction? So these are good questions for Venus and Scorpio. Because, well, transformation, the the change necessary to attain certain things is sometimes worth it. So, think of it in that intensified way. Think of it in that way that's like there's a power here. There's an energy here that we can really tap into and and enjoy, if at all possible. Not even if at all possible. Most likely enjoy the process of actually getting into these things. Venus is what we value. Venus is what we actually hold dear, hold as special and significant. Venus is our desire, our want, our well, it's those things. And so a few things happening with Venus throughout the week that are significant. It moves from one energetic alignment to the next, like one back to back to back, which is how these things work. First off, Venus moves into Scorpio and immediately creates a harmony with Saturn in Pisces. So it's good. We have the intensity and the potency of feeling with Venus in Scorpio, and it's kind of tempered. It's a bit not reduced, but contained by this Saturn in Pisces energy. Saturn being the thing that contains the restriction, the reservation that we might have. When things get big and intense and move quickly, Saturn is there to calm us down and keep us in a space of cool, collected decision. And Pisces has a spiritual element to it. Now, Venus's favorite place to be in the chart is Pisces. It's its exaltation. So whenever Venus is connected to Pisces energy, we get this lovely, like juicy energy. Our emotions hold a different kind of potency. It's not just that they're stronger, it's that they're more pure, it's that they're more clear. So it's a good harmony between Venus and Saturn, and that carries on throughout the week and kind of finally starts to fade off once we get into the early part of the 8th of December. So what is the 8th? It's Friday. Early part of Friday Pacific time, that kind of starts to fade off more and more, but the exact moment of that is midday tomorrow. And so we have that. That's the kind of first part of this. And as that is fading out, we're building into for the moment, I'm gonna call it a disharmony, because it's not a harmonious aspect, but it's not really a disharmony, because we'll find out. The movement is into opposition with Jupiter. So we have Venus in Scorpio, and then we have Jupiter over in Taurus, the other side. And any aspect with Jupiter is a good aspect. Jupiter is always, it's always a positive energy. It's an infinitely positive energy. The great benefic is what they call it, or what it's whatever historically called. It's a fun word. The energy between the two is unified in that both Taurus and Scorpio are about resources. So Taurus being individual resources, the local resources of you and your home and yourself and your immediate surroundings, the things that you have around you to keep you safe and still and comfortable. And then we have the external resources. We have the shared resources of the wealth of the world, that which can always be dug further into and sourced from, and that's Scorpio. So the Venus in Scorpio holding us in a heartfelt emotional space from this kind of intensified space of Scorpio. In opposition with Jupiter, the expander, the that which feeds and makes more of everything. So it's a very wealthful week. It's a good energy for things to really increase in the realm of your own wealth and of your own resources, of your own availability of energy. Basically, like when you boil it down, the availability of energy that you can use as a way to just keep living and growing and thriving and increasing. That's here, and that really starts to kick off midday on the 7th, kind of overlapping with the end of this harmony with Saturn, and intensifies throughout until the later part of the day on the 9th. And that's when the exact moment happens, and then it passes and starts to fade off. So we have Venus in Scorpio moving through harmony with Saturn until the later part of the week. Then once we get into the weekend, we're moving into a frictional aspect with Jupiter. But considering it's Venus and Jupiter, both planets are very, very like happy and positive in general. Obviously there are ways to botch that, but you can have too much of a good thing, which is, I mean, when at its essence, Venus in Scorpio is that. It's like, it's too much of a good thing, leaves a bitter taste in your mouth, Anyway, so we move into this frictional energy with Jupiter in Taurus, and that is where we have the kind of expansion of energy, the expansion into this beautiful Venus in Scorpio potential, which is to really dive into and experience and feel our wants, our needs, the things that the human form is desiring at any given moment. And hopefully we're not sacrificing the future to the moment's wants, but there's a balance that has to be struck. We must enjoy the present and also continue to enjoy life into the future. So we're picking things that have a sustained value, the sustained value. Now, Scorpio is also not just shared resources in the sense of like something everyone has access to. It's shared, it's the shared wealth of the familial things. Now, Scorpio rules that part of life. Scorpio rules what's called the 8th house, which is the house of shared resources and, death and rebirth, but also inheritance, because, usually you inherit something because somebody died. Anyway, the shared wealth throughout the familial line, the passage of wealth, of value, the passage of what's the word I'm looking for here? I don't know, I lost it. Anyway, so we have this step from the slow, steady start of the Venus moving through Scorpio, aspecting Saturn, and then moving into aspect with Jupiter. And as it starts to fade off from the aspect with Jupiter, it meets a harmonious aspect with Mercury, which intensifies and amplifies the aspect with Jupiter, kind of carries it forth a little further into the week. And I'll talk more about that next week on Tuesday when I do the full moon in we're moving forward. Next week's full moon. So we have this is a Mercury retrograde moment. We're getting into the beginning of Mercury retrograde. I think I said that at the beginning. Anyway, so we have, next week is a new moon. The new moon in Sagittarius next Tuesday is when I'll talk more about the new moon in Sagittarius. But kind of in the middle of this, while Venus is leaving its potent interaction with Saturn and gaining interaction with Jupiter, the moon runs into Venus. So early in the day on the 9th, and a few hours before and ahead of, the moon will meet Venus in Scorpio. And that's a very potent thing. The moon in Scorpio is a very particular kind of power. Now, it's not the moon's favorite place to be, but it's it's lovely because one, it's powerful, it's emotional, it's raw potential. There's a lot of good that can be gained there. There's a lot of psychological depth and emotional intensity and emotional richness. We're just going to go with richness. There's a lot of emotional richness that can be dove into, and the opposition with Jupiter in Taurus gives it a kind of harmony that it really seeks. The moon loves Taurus. The moon loves to be in Taurus. So being in its fall in Scorpio, but also aspecting Jupiter, this great, lovely energy in its home of Taurus, in its favorite place of Taurus, it's a wonderful thing. So there's a power building, there's an availability of wealth, there's availability of transformation, and the biggest things that we get to work with are what's operating under the surface, what's operating within the subconscious self, and how is that affecting what we actually gain, what we actually attain, what we bring into our lives as valuable goods, as things that increase our ability to experience life in a positive manner. What's good? Like, give me what's good. I want what's good. I want what's good. That notion of getting more of what is good is exactly what this is all about. And obviously, with Venus being very positive and happy and let's get what's good, and it being in Scorpio, and Jupiter in Taurus, which is it's been in Taurus for a while. It's going to be there until May, so we've got another 6 months of it. But it wants to expand in that, and one of the big things is expanding too fast or expanding too much in general, and so or deflating too quickly, like the ever-present possibility of overspending for no particular reason, or for some seemingly good reason, but then realizing that it was a terrible idea or whatever. We have those moments. Venus in Scorpio just wants more. There's a card in the tarot, and it's associated with Venus and Taurus, and that card is which is a Seven of Cups, the Seven of Cups in tarot, and it's a very rich energy. But think about richness in the sense of what's something that's too intensely rich. Like when you taste something that's just so sweet, it makes the center of your brain hurt. There's all these sugars that they add to food and stuff that they've been gradually increasing over the last 70 years or whatever. The sugars have become more and more and more intense. They've invert cane and invert corn syrup and whatever, the various ways that they intensify the sweetness of things, and then hide it in other things, makes it so that it's possible for us to actually consume these things without feeling like we're going to die. But if we were to just taste the tiniest little bit of that pure intensified sweetness, it would be repulsive. It would be something that is just too much. And that Venus in Scorpio, along with Jupiter in Taurus, is potentially one of those moments where it's this is too much. This is too much. And the nice thing is, well, the sun's in Sagittarius, so maybe we think it's too much and we're fuck it, we're going to do it anyway. That's always a possibility. The desire to do that is very particularly real. And maybe that's exactly what we need. Maybe we need exactly that kind of experience so that we're not, so that we're less likely to repeat that. That's always fun. The things that we experience that keep us from experiencing the same thing again. But there's a lot here. a lot here. We can get into the richness of it. We can get into the bigness of life, the experience that we're seeking in whatever realm of prosperity we're trying to increase, whether it's financial or material or spiritual or emotional and relational. There are some very, there are some very good potentials for like a strong relationship to show up in our life, because Venus in Scorpio is like, it is here and it's connected and it's to the core. Like Scorpio wants to be as close to someone as you can get without literally being the same person. And there's that desire for that intense closeness, that intense connection, because it brings up so much, and it brings up everything that we don't want to know about ourselves, everything that we didn't know but we now want to experience. All of the things. Scorpio is that realm, and Venus brings that out in the realm of relationships. So it's a good week. It's a fucking great week. It's gonna be all kinds of fun. And again, I bounce back to the sun in Sagittarius, building in its harmonious interaction with Chiron, the healer. The repeated trope about Chiron is the wounded healer. And so we find our spaces where we have been harmed or wounded or otherwise experienced some kind of tragedy or we'll just say maladaptive experience, things that don't help us necessarily at the moment and harm us or cause us some kind of pain or anguish, and then transmute that. Chiron is the transmuter of harm, of pain, of anguish. So we get the harmony between the two, and we get to think of it symbolically. They're both in fire signs, the sun in Sagittarius, Chiron in Aries. We don't just experience and try to understand our pain and our anguish. We try to burn it off. We try to get rid of it. There's enough anger in this particular alignment that we could use that positively, as long as you're harnessing it in a positive manner, to burn off some of the shit that you don't need, especially as we lead into the end of the week and we get towards the new moon. Like, it's a good time to get rid of what needs to be gotten rid of. It's time for that. We're in the last quarter of the lunar cycle, so we're shedding some of these things, we're removing some of this shit, and we have the opportunity to do that in a way that is really healing on a kind of soul level. Venus in Scorpio, we want the depth of things. The moon meeting Venus toward the end of the week brings us the emotional amplification of that. The moon is always, whatever it touches, it just makes brighter and bigger and more sensitive, so we can tap into it further. Then we get Jupiter in Taurus, just making everything bigger and more visible, and the sun in Sagittarius, bringing our conscious awareness to it, so that it's not just more visible, it's actually what we're looking at. And yeah, it's a great week. It's good stuff. If you happen to have placements in the early parts of the fixed signs, you're particularly affected by this. The fixed signs being Scorpio and Taurus and Aquarius and Leo. So these four, if you've got placements in the early parts of this, it'll be particularly visceral this week. And obviously just enjoy whatever's going on, and see how much you can get into, and have fun. We'll be back in 8 days for the new moon in Sagittarius. All right, see ya.